We're doing this. Man, I've been working on this film, I've been working on this review like literally 24 hours straight.
I think I'm a little bit tired.
Welcome to Film Fireside. Yeah, I've just been really excited to do this one. I've been like kind of nervous too because I want to like make it good. I want to hand this to like the film god of all film gods. I want to hand this list and be like, this is the 20 best movies of the decade, and I want that film god to be like, you are correct. Now, obviously, that being said, that's really ridiculous, right? For many reasons. First of all, I haven't seen every movie this decade. There's a lot. I tried to cram a few movies in. I'm glad I did, because there's one movie that actually ended up making the list from that cram session. But after a while, I was like, okay, I don't really think this is really doing me much. Maybe rewatch a few and do what I can. Some of the qualifications to make my top 20 list are as follows. Obviously, it's a film that I was really affected by and really, in some way or another, they're unforgettable. I also think, too, I wanted to just find movies that both affected me and were just extremely unique and extremely original. That being said, let's get into this list. But I can't really get into this list until I've mentioned the honorables. Honorable mentions, if you will. My honorable mentions for this decade are A Quiet Place, Get Out, Django Unchained, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Saving Mr. Banks, Inside Out, Interstellar, A Ghost Story. I know it's kind of a lot. I could have maybe made this like a top 30 list with just the honorable mentions, but I didn't want to do that. Honestly, the only reason this is a top 20 list is because I was going to make it a top 10, and as I counted my honorable mentions, I was like, there's like 10 honorable mentions. Okay, well, why don't I just make it a top 20? And then I added a few more honorable mentions, which were those. And I added too many of those honorable mentions as well, so it could have just gone on and on and on, and I just wasn't ready to do that. Here we go. Top 20 list. Let's do this. To start off this list, at number 20, we have Life of Pi, directed by Ang Lee.
I think I'm a little bit tired.
Life of Pi was another film of his where he just knocks it out of the park. The visuals are stunning. The story is stunning. Everything about this film stuns you in some way or another. The tension of this film is so unique and such a stressful situation to be in that it literally keeps you on the edge of your seat the whole time when, after the fact, you go back and realize I didn't really watch much happen. It's hard for me to really talk about the things I really enjoy about this film without getting into spoilers because there's a lot of depth and meaning behind this that I think are a cause for discussion once you know the spoilers contained within this film. So I will not spoil this film, but I definitely recommend you check out Life of Pi. So the concept for this film, as presented to actor Paul Dano, he plays the lead in this film, and he was being interviewed about this project, and he explained how the directors approached him when it came to this film and how they pitched this film to him. I'll just show you.
We want to make a film where the first fart makes you laugh and the last fart makes you cry.
If I was a movie producer and I had some directors come to me and just gave me that one-word sentence, I'd just be like,
shut up and take my money!
Just like its concept, this film is bizarre, weird, and interesting, and I am all for it. In my opinion, their concept was a success. This film definitely isn't for everyone, and that's kind of why I love it. I recognize people watch this movie and be like, oh my gosh, this is so stupid. And I think it calls on all of us and wants all of us to do that and then question the fact that we do that. Because I did that a few times in this film. Again, not to spoil too much, but definitely go check out Swiss Army Man. The best way I can describe this film is I want you to just close your eyes and imagine your hero, the person you look up to, your idol, the person you imagine has all amount of wisdom in the universe. Imagine that person calling you up and being like, let's go take a hike in this beautiful part of nature, and I'm going to sit down with you and share with you the wisdom of the universe. That's what this film felt like.
So, Top thinks you give pretty good advice. And great tea.
The key to both is proper aging.
I leave this film, every time I watch it, just in awe and so inspired. I want to be a better person. My concept and perception on life is just so enlightened and enhanced. And it's an invigorating experience. And I just think everybody needs to experience About Time. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is my number 17 slot, and what can I say? Edgar Wright is just a one-of-a-kind filmmaker. This film is just super fun, funny, and is just the most amount of fan service I've ever seen in the best type of way. I even got a chance to read the comic book for this film, and it's just as funny. This was just a masterpiece waiting to happen, and Edgar Wright pulled it off brilliantly. This is the film that I actually hadn't seen before last week. A lot of times, people watch a Coen Brothers movie and end the film being like,
I don't get it.
And I get that. Honestly, the very first Coen Brothers movie I saw was No Country for Old Men, and I watched it, and I honestly was like, what the hell was that crap? What? But since then, the Coen Brothers have really just popped. Their talent, their ability, the types of movies they make are just so unique and so interesting and can affect you so beautifully. And all these things I'm using to describe the Coen Brothers film, I'm especially using to describe Inside Llewyn Davis. If I talk strictly the cinematography, the coloring, and the editing of this film, it is something I have never seen before. It's beautiful. It's just stunning, and it's just work to be expected of the Coen Brothers. I think I've mentioned this before on the channel, but I love a film that makes me go, okay, I can analyze this movie. And every movie of the Coen Brothers since, I have always wanted to analyze and dig more into, and I intend to do that much more with Inside Llewyn Davis. Silence is directed by Martin Scorsese. And this film is an absolute masterpiece. When I watched this movie, all of his other films were like, oh, okay. I think that's the beauty of this film. This film has so much to do with who Martin Scorsese is. It's just his life and his faith and his belief as just an individual person. That means this film comes from a very vulnerable place. I can see a lot of people looking at this movie and being like, it's kind of a slow burn, little too Christian for me. Which, by the way, if you're one of those who didn't want to see this movie because it was about Christianity and you thought it was going to preach at you, two things. One, open your mind, get over yourself.
Get over it.
And second, no, it doesn't do that. The questions and situations presented through the inner turmoil of our main character, who is played by Andrew Garfield, brilliantly can be felt and understood by just about everyone. It's not an easy film to watch, too. There's a lot of hard things that happen and a lot of anguish that we experience with this character. And that's the point. And it's beautiful to experience that with this character. We feel for this character. And I think this film lets us walk away with an understanding for each other, for life, and for God, maybe. May all filmmakers who ever intend to make another movie musical, I would like you to watch Rocketman first. Please take note of the wide shots and long cuts that take place. Please take note of that, lest we are cursed with another Greatest Showman. This is the Greatest Show! Rocketman makes this list mostly because it proved me wrong about something. I was of the opinion that movie musicals, or actually, I need to clarify something here. There is musicals, like a stage Broadway type of musical, and I think a movie attempting to capture that in film form, I call that a movie musical. There are musical elements that just exist within movies. I don't call those musicals. Usually, I don't think movie musicals work where they try to capture like a Broadway type where it's like dialogue. We're going to take time to sing and dance about something and then dialogue. Singing and dancing about something within a film, not necessarily calling it a full-blown musicals, that typically works for me. That's not a big deal. But for some reason, I never understood why. Movie musicals did not work for me, and I just came to the conclusion that it's not meant for film and it just isn't going to work. This film blended those two art forms perfectly, and it worked so well. One of the beautiful things about musical theater is you're usually there and you're getting into the story through the songs and through the dancing. It helps you connect with the character more. And for some reason, most movie musicals never did that for me. The songs and the dances distracted from the film. May this film be the future and the hope of movie musicals. Godspeed. Parasite is an absolute masterpiece. It's hard to not imagine this film being studied 10, 20 years from now by film historians, students of film. This will be a staple. This is a good indicator of the quality of this film. During film festival season, Parasite was presented at many film festivals, and I don't remember which one, but I just was watching on YouTube. Bong Joon-ho presented the film, and there was a Q&A afterwards, and someone in the audience asked Bong Joon-ho about the decisions he made with a specific character and why this character experienced such and such and such and blank and blank and blank, and I'm not going to spoil it for you. And his response was so cool. I am paraphrasing, of course. The response, what I remember hearing, basically, the story left me at that point. It wasn't my story anymore. It was just the truthfulness of these characters, and the truthfulness and reality of the situation began driving the story at that point. So it really wasn't up to me anymore then. I respect a filmmaker like Bong Joon-ho, whose projects and films he takes seriously, he's very particular and methodical about, but he also knows that he has to let it happen still. He has to let the film happen. I really love this movie. I want to keep watching it. I want to learn more and more and more from it. I feel like I will every time I watch it. Kind of like Life of Pi, I can't really talk about my feelings of this film without getting too much into spoilers. There are certain things that happen and certain things. The way the movie ends really just brings it all home for me, and from that, I can personally analyze and obtain many different themes, many different lessons, comparisons to my own life. And on top of all that, this film was told in one of the most unique ways I've ever seen. Kind of like Rocket Man, it combined an art form of musical theater. It combined film with dance, and that's really cool. This film is haunting, too, just in the experiences and struggles Natalie Portman is going through, and that is very apparent in Natalie Portman's performance specifically. All in all, Black Swan is just a film that it's good.
Wow.
I was gonna maybe make this like really amazing, craft this amazing sentence explaining my thoughts perfectly on Black Swan, and it just ended up, it's good. And it is good. It's very good.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Whiplash is a one-of-a-kind movie. Damien Chazelle is also a one-of-a-kind filmmaker. This film just shows beautifully his potential and what he's capable of doing, the type of films and the type of stories he's able to make. The heart and soul of this film, though, comes from J.K. Simmons' just gut-wrenching performance. Just this journey that this character goes on just brings up a lot of questions about things we're passionate about. I think that, and that's kind of a theme with Damien Chazelle's films he makes, the question of what's the cost of this thing that I'm passionate about or that I want to pursue. He asks that question a lot, and it's really beautiful. Whiplash, too, the title of it is a very good representation of the type of experience you have with this film emotionally. Whiplash is a wonderful film. One of the, if not the best film from 2014, so please go check it out. Wes Anderson, in recent years, I'm starting to be like, okay, he may be a one-trick pony here.
If you have any requests, shout them out. Play that same song. All right, same song. Here we go.
Regardless of that fact, I have not been affected more by one of his films than I have been affected by Moonrise Kingdom. The dryness of the humor of this film, the simplicity, and the surprising amount of emotional depth that is within every one of these characters. This film is very character-driven. Their motives are very, very clear, and it's great. I think Wes Anderson, that's one of his main tools in his belt, is he just always has strong, solid characters. And regardless of how dry and simple they are, and maybe even some of them can blend together a little bit, their motives are clear, what they want is clear, and what they're fighting for just drives the story. And this film specifically, there's many characters fighting for things that are conflicting with each other, and the emotional depth that then comes from that is surprisingly beautiful. I love Moonrise Kingdom. It's a really fun, lighthearted movie to watch. Definitely check it out. Baby Driver, we're back with Edgar Wright. Baby Driver. Baby Driver is a film that, quite frankly, I will never get tired of Baby Driver.
I can do this all day.
I will always be down to watch Baby Driver. This film is electric. It's so energetic and amazing. One of the greatest action films I have ever seen, hands down. One of the other unique aspects of this film is I can honestly say this is the best edited film I have ever seen in my life, including sound editing and just film editing. Those things combined together, even the sound mixing of this film, they help this story just increase in value and quality at least like upwards of 100%. And already the story of this film and the writing of this film, the acting, the performances of this film, the directing of this film are already up in like the upwards of 90%. Basically what I'm saying is you gotta see Baby Driver. You can't miss out on Baby Driver. It's so fun and it's just an amazing action film. The quality of this film, I think, is so underappreciated. Adam McKay takes the reins on this film in directing it. Adam McKay is most famously known for directing Anchorman and Step Brothers. I couldn't think of that one for a second. And so for Adam McKay to take a stab at a film like this was really interesting for everyone in the industry, and the way he pulls it off is so awesome. The thing about historical dramas, those things that happen that are really bad, they affected a lot of people did some shady things, those films are made pretty regularly, and it's really easy to sit back and point fingers. And this film starts to do that, but one of the beautiful things about this film, and I'm not going to tell you how, but I feel like it does it the entire time without us knowing, this film that finally points the finger at us. This is a hard thing that happened in our history, and it causes a lot of questions and it causes a lot of concerns. I much prefer a film that does that. Instead of pointing fingers at all the people who did bad things, I love a film about that moment in history that can somehow turn it back on us and make us question our role in this event. I also just feel this film is so entertaining and engaging. Another film, very well edited, very uniquely edited. I don't think I've ever seen a movie edited this way. The performances in this film, Steve Carell and Christian Bale, are you kidding me? Forget about it. Holy crap, those performances are stellar. They are top-notch. They are extremely good. This film, there's just so many things about this film that I think are really underappreciated, so I really think you should go check this film out. Spider-Man is my favorite superhero. What could I want more than a really cool Spider-Man concept written by one of the greatest animated filmmakers right now, Phil Lord? What's better than that?
Not a damn thing.
This film just asked to be successful. There was no chance of this film failing, really. And the animation is so unique, and I think that's another reason it makes this list. There's nothing like this film. This team of animated filmmakers really just knocked it out of the park with this one. And Spider-Man Into the Spideyverse is my favorite Spider-Man movie. For those of you who don't know, The Artist is a silent film that was made in 2011. This film was such a cool concept. And the thing about this movie, though, is it wasn't just the concept itself. The use of and lack of sound in this film. There are certain things that only work within the world of a silent film. And this film knows those things and uses them so well. The twists and turns that happen can only happen within the world of a silent film. This film is just smart. It used those things perfectly to make this movie-going experience an experience like none other. Please go watch The Artist. It is so good. Going back to 2019, just this last year, Jojo Rabbit was a satire of World War II, written and directed by Taika Waititi. Satire is a really important art form that I think a lot of people just don't understand. I was shocked when I heard some people say they weren't going to see this movie because they were worried it might be too offensive. First of all, who is this film offending other than Hitler and the idea of Nazism in general? How could this film be doing anything else other than that? Satire can be if it is used the way Taika Waititi uses it in the film Jojo Rabbit. It can be a glorious and wonderful teaching tool, a wonderful tool on perspective. This is a comedy that uses its ridiculousness, it uses its humor to really hone a point and to really help us learn something. This film just floored me and just blew me away emotionally. I was so into this movie. I was laughing, I was crying. It's a film like none other, which is of course why it's on this list. Jojo Rabbit is one of the greatest films of the year. Please, well, decade.
I think I'm a little bit tired.
It's one of the greatest films of the decade. Go check out Jojo Rabbit. Very similarly to The Artist, 1917's concept helps us be placed within this story and relate to the main characters in a way that we couldn't have otherwise. 1917 is such a sacred film. I don't know any other way to explain it than that. Very similar to the way Silence is a sacred film. There's just something so special and so unique about 1917. It's a film unlike any other. I can honestly say that. I said this as soon as I watched this film for the first time, and I've been saying this, that this is the greatest war film since Saving Private Ryan. And many of you don't know this, but Saving Private Ryan is not only my favorite war movie, but it is my favorite movie. There's just a specialness to 1917, and it's something I want to show people I care about. You know, I love a film like that where it's like, I want the people I love in my life to experience this film with me. That I immediately felt that after I watched this movie. I wanted my parents to see it. I wanted my siblings to see it. I wanted my wife to see it. I want my future kids to see this movie just because of how beautiful and wonderful it is. I was not ready for this film. Darkest Hour just ripped in me a new one. This is probably the best historical political drama that I've ever seen in my life. This is the one scene in this film that I think describes this whole movie perfectly.
When will the lesson be learned? When will the lesson be learned? How many more dictators must be wooed, appeased, good God, given him mixed privileges, before we learn? You cannot reason with a tiger when your head is in its mouth!
The energy and the tension of this film stems from that point. It stems from the fact that Winston Churchill's kind of an asshole, and we love him for that, and we also hate him for that throughout the film. And at the end, I was sobbing because of what living and the government and having a government, what that all should be about. And I think this film shows through history, through something that actually happened, what a government and a society and a country can really do and can really accomplish, and how through certain means can just change the world. And on top of all that, Gary Oldman gives the best performance I have ever seen. There has never been a performance, and I don't think there will ever be a performance like Gary Oldman's.
Never, never, ever, ever, for never, ever.
You have to see Darkest Hour. I gotta preface this with just my movie-going experience with this movie. I was about 15 when this film came out, hanging out with some buds, and we're all like, hey, we're gonna go to the movies, okay. Go to the movies, I buy a ticket to whatever the hell we're seeing, that I didn't really know. I sit down in the theater, and I was looking at my ticket, and I was like, wait, what movie are we seeing? My friend just leans in and goes, it's Inception. Okay. And then it happened, friends. It happened. The movie Inception happened to me, and I was forever changed. Christopher Nolan is a master filmmaker. His skill in filmmaking is just uncanny. Christopher Nolan knows how to craft a film, and Inception is the most perfect example of a film that is perfectly crafted. Even during exposition, I am just on the edge of my seat. Christopher Nolan knows how to keep us engaged. I think most people have seen Inception at this point, but if you haven't, crawl out from under your rock, friend, because I got a movie for you, and it's really good. It's called Inception. It's going to blow your mind. Okay, we're doing it, or we've done it. We did it. We're going to continue doing it because we're not quite done yet, but we basically did it. My number one movie of the decade is La La Land. Was directed by Damien Chazelle. This is a film, I mentioned this earlier with Rocket Man, this is a film where it's not, I don't call this a musical necessarily. There are definitely like musical elements, but those musical elements ring not from musical theater, but from 1940s to 1930s film era, where they were booming and they began including musicals into film. La La Land is...
It's practically perfect in every way.
It is just about a perfect movie. I think this film ties with Titanic and another film, I don't remember which other film, but it ties for the number of most Oscar nominations. I think it was nominated in pretty much every category it could be nominated for. And when you watch this film, it deserves it in all of those categories. Cinematography, editing, production design. The production design of this film is just so gorgeous. It's just so beautiful. There are shots that are just absolutely breathtaking. This film is absolutely breathtaking. The other thing about this movie, too, if I may just take a second to indulge myself, the other reason this movie is really special to me is when I first saw this movie, I was on a date. I was on my first date with what I didn't know to be at the time was my future wife. Aww. I'm kind of a nerd about movies, if you can't tell. I'm kind of weird about them, and that was a good indicator. The fact that I was able to see La La Land and react the way I did, and that Kelsey was still happy to be on that date with me. That's a good sign. That was a really good sign. Glad I put a ring on that. But regardless of that, I still would have been floored by this movie. If you haven't seen La La Land, run, don't walk to go see La La Land. It is such a good film, and I think everyone needs to experience it. Thank you so much for watching this movie. By the way, the reason this movie was made is I put a poll up on Instagram and Facebook through my Film Fireside account, so I'll do that in the future. The reason this film was made when it was is because people who voted in the poll voted for this to be made, and so I listened and this film was made. But yeah, let me know what other things you want to do, because I'll keep reviewing movies. If there are older films you'd like me to do, I thought about doing just AFI's top 100 film list, just picking a film, watching it, and reviewing it. If you'd like to see that, let me know. Same thing with like IMDb's top 250 list. I may just do it with that list as well. Also, I want to hear your thoughts on this list. Have you seen all these movies? What were your thoughts on some of these movies? Is there a film that you really wish I'd put on? There probably is, and I didn't do it because I'm a monster.
How dare you?
So I'd love to hear about that. I'd love to hear your recommendations, because maybe some of those films I didn't get to see. So through your comments, I will get to see more films that I want to see, because I like movies. Thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye-bye.